That's not something you need to worry about. Like I said, if you have first and goal or second and goal from the 3 yard line and JJ Watt comes in, worry about him. But the problem is you let him get first and goal from the 3 yard line. It could be anyone, any tight end you need to worry about. It's not he's going to line up as a wide receiver, or a fullback maybe. But that's just a sticky move. No one's game planning for that, especially not someone that's texting in from the 816, which is Missouri. That's clearly just a joke.
Well, honestly, 816 guys, and I actually have to say it's a good thought, just because it's in somebody's head. Now, I know it sounds kind of weird, like what the heck is he talking about? If it's in Kansas City's head, they might say, you know what, this is something that we might need to spend at least an hour or two, thinking about with our red zone packages and what we do if J.J. Watt is lined up at tight end. Those kind of situations can at least start playing in the mental psyche of the defensive coordinators who have to go against that kind of element. However, that being said, if you're in a playoff game, the last thing you want to start doing is putting your whole game behind gimmicks and tricks. Last year that worked when you were a really terrible Texan team. But it's not going to be the type of thing that you want to put all your hopes and dreams and aspirations into with a sudden death scenario where you can't do anything past it. 816 decided to text us back. Yeah. And he says, "Screw you, Matt. Ha ha."
That's good. So that's good. That's clearly KG the kid, probably. So
it
good
probably
deal.
is.
I'm gonna call you on your show and heckle you.
Guys, what he's talking about is KG The Stretch, the show that comes on right after Nash and Matt. It's a baseball show. It is still baseball season to some people. And the truth of the matter is that we do NFL all year long, so why not follow it up with a baseball show that does all year long? And guys, tonight they're going to be talking about Pete Rose. So I encourage all those jock stars listening tonight to stay tuned after the show and become part of one of the most debated and hot topics across baseball, as Pete Rose has become relevant once again as the new baseball commissioner has denied his entry into the Hall of Fame. So that was
I don't know why he's texting in about football anyway. They have a show about baseball. What do they know? They don't know anything about football.
This game has a couple of matchups. J.J. Watt is a matchup, and I'm not sure that the Chiefs' offensive line can contain J.J. Watt enough through this game. That concerns me, especially with the fact that you do not, I say you do not, I'm not talking to you really, but the Kansas City Chiefs do not have the running back that is one that can keep J.J. Watt thinking run. He is going to be after the pass rush all day long.
Yeah. Charkand, Quest, and Spencer Ware have come in and done an exceptional job, and they'll do just fine.
For backup.
Here's the other thing you got to worry about. Look, J.J. Watt, you're not going to stop him. No team can stop him. He's good. But what you can do, and what they're probably worrying about all week this week, is Alex Smith taking off. That's it. How do you beat the rush? You have a quarterback who can run out of it. That's it.
His runs,
if they get to him, they're well timed. They're not amazing, but they're typically decent amount of yards. They're at 3rd and 5, and he gets a first. They are quality runs. He knows when to take off, and he does it really, really well. That's what this team is worried about.
Alex Smith, I think because he's a white quarterback, is really underrated as a scrambling quarterback out of the pocket. And he doesn't do it with the in that Russell Wilson, I'm going to take my eyes off the field while running around like a maniac trying to make the play longer and stuff like that. He does this thing where he lets people get downfield, and then he sees lanes open in the middle of the field because they don't have the monster back in a West Coast offense has to cover the possible slant. So the monster back looks for the slants over the middle. And then once those monster backs realize that there is no slant over the middle, the monster back has to drop back into a deeper coverage. So when those lanes open up, Alex Smith usually has about 20, 30 yards right there in the middle of the field, and then he does that stupid little dive that irritates the crud out of most defenders, that little slide thing that he does. That right there is annoying as all heck because there is no way to defend it. I mean, you could try to put somebody like Vincent Woolfolk at 4,000 pounds, 2-ton man in the middle of the field trying to catch that Alex Smith, and you're just going to find that Alex Smith is able to embarrass him. There's nobody else that can line up in the middle of that field to play a monster situation. If you bring your safeties down, then Alex Smith, like he's been showing lately in games, can just toss it over and start hitting some of the long passes to like Macklin. It is a matchup situation, and Alex Smith's ability to scramble is a huge component to the KC game.
Yeah, and look, in years past, and even the beginning of this season, that wasn't such a threat because you could keep someone up there. But then what started happening as his confidence came up, he started hitting people deep. Now, the other day, I can't remember if it was the Cleveland game or the one before that, first drive of the series, they hit it long. I mean, it was a 40-yarder to Connolly. He didn't connect with it, but he got a pass interference call. It's almost like they're showing people, hey, I'm going to go deep. I'm not afraid to do that starting out the game. So you need to be concerned about whether I will or not. And it's a refreshing change to see him start doing that because he can throw. Just because he hasn't doesn't mean that he can't. And he's starting to show people, right, 20, 30-yard passes down the field, and he can make them. And they look good.
They do. They absolutely do. I'm still not convinced Alex Smith is a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, but I do believe that in this matchup, this game, this week, that Alex Smith is the largest and probably most consistent component, as he's actually been to the playoffs. He's seen playoff games that he's been a winning part of. Not that he actually played in them because Kaepernick was in at that point. But he has that experience of moving through the progression of a playoff scenario. Not Brian Hoyer. I guess he kind of has similar situation behind Tom Brady, but this is not a battle-tested veteran like Alex Smith is. There are a couple of matchups I believe that Houston does exceed in. And one of the matchups is that Vincent Woolfolk, middle of the line, J.J. Watt, defensive line. Your line is going your line again. I see. I just
and we might have Mitch Morse out. We might have Mitch Morse out with a concussion. He's still in concussion protocol. That's our starting center.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, that could present problems, definitely.
Yes, which means that the pass doesn't get enough time to develop, which means that now you're back to that whole West Coast quick slant sort of situation, which when you guys are, again, when Kansas City is playing that fast sort of true West Coast offense form, that's when things start to go to hell. And I mean, they're a good West Coast offense team, but they don't run the West Coast offense perfectly. And when you get to the playoffs, that timing, that precision that's required, it worries me, especially if Vincent Woolfolk and J.J. Watt are having good days. At that point, if Jadeveon Clowney shows up, what the heck could happen? I mean, that could be a disaster on your front set for your offensive line.
Yeah, it could. It definitely could. I mean, hey, this team is not in the playoffs because they suck. They're in it because they've played well. So, I mean, they're going to probably get to the quarterback, and it's going to be Kansas City's job of doing things that, Kelsey gets open. They need to they need to establish the run quickly. They need to do things that show Houston that they can't blitz them all day and that they're going to win in some of those matchups.
Yeah, it's true.
Eric Fisher. It's going to come down a decent amount to Eric Fisher, our first-round pick, having a big day.
That's and I'm not necessarily sure that Eric Fisher is ready to have that big day. Through the first 6 games, he was probably one of the worst offensive linemen I saw. I don't know how his progression has happened.
They benched him this year for a time.
Yeah, they did. They sure did. But he's back, and he's playing adequately, isn't he?
He's playing better than adequately, man. He started started to pick it up, and he's playing very well. This line has been a patchwork, and they've started to gel and play a lot better. They're protecting Alex Smith. No line's perfect, but they're definitely doing a better job than they were at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, they sure have. So let's go for just a few moments and talk about the secondaries. Now, Kansas City's secondary has probably a ravenous field day against Brian Hoyer. However, the Houston secondary, do they have the ability to give Alex Smith some trouble with what they do? They do very interesting, almost like Tampa 2 defense, sort of zone coverages that will fool you into thinking that a certain pass is accessible when it really isn't. And then all of a sudden a pickoff will occur. That Tampa 2 style, it's great.
I think it is. It's really good. But I think this is where Alex Smith's time in the league comes into play. This isn't a rookie. This guy's seen a lot of different things, and I think his football IQ is super high. So I think this is an area where that's a benefit to have him on the team because he's seen a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he has. I mean, as far as seeing like other Tampa 2s, you got the Raiders, which have a hybrid Tampa 2 4-3 defense that's kind of like the attacking style. Very similar styles of way they do things. So having that coming right off of the Oakland Raiders game, that probably does sit well with the Kansas City Chiefs since the defensive styles are so similar. There's not going to be a lot of variance in what they're doing offensively. At least I wouldn't think there would be.
No, I don't either. Now, here's my last matchup. I want to hear what you think about this.
Okay.
Bill O'Brien versus Andy Reid. Andy Reid's been making some good calls with the way that he has. I mean, he probably AFC Coach of the Year, right? For bringing this team back, the way that they've played, not letting them get down. And then a lot of the things that he's doing with this team, whether it's on offense, is been impeccable the last part of the season. I feel strong going in with Andy Reid, his knowledge, his ability to coach a game and game plan versus Bill O'Brien.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and this is one of those weak points, and I don't think I'm going to have a lot of fans behind me here. I really don't. But to me, Andy Reid is nothing more than an executive on the field at this point. To me, Andy Reid is a lot like Mike Holmgren late in his progression, and like when he was late in Seattle and going off to Cleveland. He's a masterful mind. He's a great educator. He could show all the people around him how to be great NFL coaches, and his coaching tree beneath him of people who are going to become and already are NFL head coaches is vast. Okay? But the real reality here is that he is not a super good coach. There's been so many times where I've watched him misuse talent, not play talent the right way, or just get so stuck on his concept of what the West Coast offense is that he gets his players out there and they're not actually playing football anymore. The only thing they're doing is they're thinking about making sure that their right step is the right way, making sure that the pivot is happening in the correct angles, all that West Coast offense mechanics nonsense that when you're playing football just basically sits there in your head, clouding you up, making it very difficult to actually be an effective player. The West Coast
Andy
offense
Reid
is dead.
Learning, and he's growing. And I think Alex Smith this year has taught him a lot of stuff. And they've been teaching each other because he has given Alex Smith more freedom than he ever has with any of the quarterbacks that he's had. And I think they're starting to trust each other more. And I think that is a big part of why you're seeing this team do better. They're giving Alex Smith more freedom to take the shots he wants to take, to change the plays, to get away from that rigid West Coast offense that Andy Reid has known and get more into the flow of playing football.
And that's what I mean. Andy Reid, as Andy Reid, left to his own devices with complete control being Andy Reidish, is not what this team needs. This team doesn't need to rely on Andy Reid. This team needs to rely on their natural ability, and Andy Reid needs to inspire them. But the big old red jacket, big bellied Kool-Aid